Today we are dealing with relation to ascent of SAP, translocation and transpiration. We go to question number 1. Water columns in vessels and tracheids do not rupture because of A. Weak gravitational force, B. Cohesion and adhesion, C. Lignified thick walls, D. Transpiration pull. Whenever we deal with relation to water uptake, now water uptake primarily occurs through the xylem, and whenever there is a movement of the water upwards, there are two important forces which enable the water columns to climb up a particular tree. The first one is termed as A. Cohesive force, and B is termed as the adhesive force. Cohesive forces are between a water molecule and another water molecule. So, water molecules move in columns because one molecule is attached to the other molecule very strongly because of hydrogen bonding. Then again, in addition to this, there is also adhesive forces, that is, water binds to the walls of the xylem. Thereby primarily attributable to movement of water columns, and the reason why they do not break is both due to the presence of cohesive forces and adhesive forces. There is no breakage of the water column. Hence, among the choices we have B. Cohesion and adhesion is the right answer to state why do water columns not rupture especially in the case of vessels as well as also in the case of tracheids. The right answer is B. We go to question number 2. Movement of water away from gravity in plants occurs via A. phloem, B. vessels, C. tracheids, D. sieve tubes. Whenever we are dealing with relation to movement of water, water climbs up on a tree, whereas food materials which are synthesized in the leaves are always transported downwards. The path of water is primarily termed as ascent of SAP, is always upwards. Whereas when you take the food which is formed, that is the photosynthetates, they are always translocated downwards. Now, if water movement has got to go up in a column against gravity, so water movement is against gravity, it predominantly occurs in the xylem tissues, more so with relation to vessels. The vessel elements in plant anatomy of xylem are placed one above the other. And water moves up through the particular sort of vessels. So, the vessel elements of the xylem predominantly are the units through which there is ascent of SAP or there is upward movement of water against gravity in plants. Hence, the answer is B. Question number 3. One statement is wrong in the theory of Dickson and Jolly. A. Cohesion of water molecules. B. Tracheidory elements have pores, water molecules and xylem element walls are involved. D. Need of ATP and tension by transpiration pulls. So, when you take the theory of Dickson and Jolly, According to Dixon and Joly, movement of water is primarily due to the presence of cohesion. So, cohesion of water molecules is a very important concept of Dixon and Joly. Second, they have not told about tracheids and also tracheids with pores. However, they say whenever water molecules move, it moves through the xylem elements and water is attached to the walls of the xylem element. So, this part comes under adhesion. A third important component according to Dixon and Joly, they say is there is a need for ATP. That is, it may be passive, but still there is a need for ATP, and there is the existence of tension due to transpirational pull. Due to water being drawn from the top, there exists a transpirational pull. So, there is presence of cohesive forces of water. The water combines with the xylem elements, especially the wall elements. There may be the involvement of water, and again there is a presence of a transpirational pull. So, one statement which they have not stated is that when you take tracheids, tracheids have pores. So, this is the odd statement out. Hence, among the choices, the odd statement belongs to statement number B, and this is the right answer. Answer B is the odd statement. This statement is wrong. That is, tracheidal elements have pores. Question number 4. The pulsation theory relates to A. J.C. Bose and movement of water in a zigzag manner. B. J.C. Bose and innermost cortical cells outside the endodermis. C. Pumping of water into the vessels. D. Both B and C. Now, according to the pulsation theory has been proposed by a famous Indian plant physiologist whose name is J.C. Bose. So, according to him, we find that we are talking with relation to movement of water in the inner cortical cells. In the inner cortical cells, which is outside the endodermis, there is the pumping of the water. Water gets pumped. So, hence it is termed as a pulsation theory. Water gets pumped into the vessels. Thereby, when you look at the 4 statements, water pumping, into vessels, as well as when you take the innermost cortical cells, are all involved according to the pulsation theory of J.C. Bose. Hence, the choice D, which says both statement number B and C are correct, is the right answer. Hence, the answer is D. Question number 5. Ascent of SAP has been ably demonstrated by the ringing experiment. It proves that water moves through A. Xylem, B. Cortical cells, C. Xylem parenchyma and phloem, D. Xylem and phloem. Now, initially, to exactly demonstrate that water rises up, if you take a stem, the central part is made up of the xylem, and it is believed that the water moves up through the xylem. The xylem in turn is surrounded by another tissue called the phloem. Through the phloem, organic food materials come down. Now, when you take a ringing experiment, in a ringing experiment, the bark is cut. An outer bark is primarily removed from this particular region. Thereby, we find that the nutrients will not go down. And once the nutrients do not go down, we find the entire tree will die. Whereas, there is always a continuous uptake of water. So, this primarily is one of the most important experiments with relation to ascent of sap. Ringing experiment or the removal of bark in tall trees has tentatively proved that the ascent of sap occurs through a major tissue or a major part of the vascular bundle, which is termed as the xylem tissue. So, xylem is involved with relation to water transport upwards. Hence, the right answer is A. Question number 6. During guttation, it is varied from transpiration in that A. It involves hydrothodes and it is uncontrolled. B. Liquid ooze during nights and early mornings. And C. It regulates temperature. D. Both A and B are right. Now, when you say guttation or the exudation of liquid water through specialized units or through specialized cells which are termed as hydrothodes. Hydrothodes are also called as water stomata. It is primarily seen in ornamental plants. We find at the tip of the ornamental plants there is an uncontrolled exudation of liquid water. Especially this sort of a liquid ooze occurs during the nights and it is seen during early mornings. When compared to transpiration, now transpiration is a controlled event. When you take transpiration, compare transpiration to guttation. Transpiration is a controlled event. There is release of gaseous exchange, carbon dioxide. It involves stomata and it is seen in all plants and it regulates temperature or it cools the leaf. While if you take guttation has the following features. It is uncontrolled, it is exudation of liquid water through hydrothodes in ornamental plants and it is seen during early mornings. So, among the statements, we have statement number A and statement number B support guttation. Hence, the choice of D, which is both A and B are right, is the right answer. Hence, the answer is D. Question number 7. Root pressure means A. Positive pressure of the xylem sap in roots. B. Passive water absorption. C. Active water absorption. D. Both A and C. Whenever we take root pressure, the term root pressure relates to the pressure which is developed in the xylem sap. And this sap, xylem sap, develops a sort of a pressure, more so in the roots. So, the region is the roots, the physiology is the pressure, it occurs in the xylem sap. Now, parallel to this, there is also the involvement of ATP. Hence, it is termed as active because xylem involves water, and there is active absorption. When you say absorption, it means uptake. So, uptake of water through the xylem sap involving ATP involves both the choices A and C. It is a positive pressure. It is a positive pressure, it is not a negative pressure. The negative pressure is the transpiration pull. So, root pressure is always a sort of a positive pressure of the xylem sap, and there is active water absorption. Hence, the choices of both A and C are correct. Thereby, the choices answer is D, which includes both A and C. Question number 8. Xylem sap means A. Water with minerals, B. Minerals, C. Organic solutes, D. Water with sucrose. Whenever we talk about sap, the term sap includes both water and minerals. When you take the minerals, it could mean both the macronutrients as well as the micronutrients, which is present in the case of plants. So, all the mineral uptake, when you talk about mineral uptake, mineral uptake can be by passive absorption as well as by active absorption, and it is linked to ascent of sap, which occurs via the sort of a xylem tissues. So, the meaning of the term sap always refers to water with minerals. Hence, the answer is A. We go to question number 9. The mechanism of translocation of solutes is explained by A. Mass flow or en masse, B. Pressure flow hypothesis or hydrostatic pressure, that is sink, C. Osmotic concentration of the solutes, D. All the above. Whenever we are dealing with relation to the translocation of solutes, that is, we are dealing with relation to the total organic constituents which are formed, that is right from the leaf after photosynthesis, how do the organic solutes move? So, when we talk about translocation, translocation refers to movement of solutes. So, when you say solutes, it preferably deals with organic solutes which are synthesized in plants. And when we are dealing with, whenever we deal with translocation of organic solutes in plants, the first thing is it occurs by mass flow. When you say mass flow, that is, there is a total current, it moves like how water gets poured from a sort of a bucket of water. So, it moves en masse, that is in toto. It moves in toto, or there is mass flow. Parallel to this, there is, because of the movement, there is also a sort of a pressure flow. From a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So, whenever there is pressure flow, there is also hydrostatic flow. That is, it always occurs from a source to sink. Source to sink. Then parallel to this, there is also the osmotic concentration. There is osmotic concentration of the solutes. Thereby, whenever we are dealing with relation to translocation of solutes, N mass, pressure flow, hydrostatic flow and osmotic concentration of solutes, all of them add up with relation to the concept of the mechanism of, we are dealing with relation to mechanism. That is the process. Hence, we have the right answer here is D, that is, it includes all the statements A, B and C. Hence, the right answer is statement number D. Question number 10. Transfer of photosynthetic products from mesophyll cells to sieve tubes at the supply end is called A. Phloem unloading, B. Phloem loading, C. Involves symplast and apoplast, D. Parenchyma cells of the root. Whenever we have the photosynthetase, that is the products of the photosynthetates, after the process of photosynthesis, sucrose and its components get loaded into the soil, or they are synthesized within the mesophyll leaves. So, from the mesophyll leaf tissue, that is the palisade and the spongy parenchyma, the leaves, from there the photosynthetic products are transferred to the sieve tubes. Now, sieve tubes primarily help in conduction. So, it is at the supply end. So, when we have leaves and in the leaf we have the photosynthetic tissues, especially when you take the mesophyll cells, from the mesophyll cells, the photosynthetase get into the sieve tubes. Sometimes they are also stored in the companion cells. Now, the sieve tubes and the companion cells together constitute the phloem. The phloem is involved in the translocation of substances downwards. So, the initial transfer of the photosynthetates to the basic element which is involved in conduction called the phloem, this movement, the first movement, is termed as phloem loading. Whereas at the bottom, supposing the photosynthetates go to the places where it has to be utilized, like the roots or maybe the fruits, or else maybe at places where there is the need, then the place at need is called the sink. So, phloem loading always relates to the supply end. Phloem loading relates to the supply end and it deals with photosynthetates of mesophyll cells when it delivers into the sieve tubes. Hence, the answer is B. Next, we go to question number 11. The term transpiration pull means A. Effect of phloem on xylem, B. Gravitational pressure, C. Water pressure in roots, D. Water evaporation from intercellular spaces, low water potential, movement of water from xylem into the cells of the leaves and xylem pull. Whenever we deal with relation to, we use the term transpirational pull. The pull primarily refers to how water is drawn upwards from the xylem. So, among the choices, The key word is the xylem pull, which is the last word in this sort of a in option number D. So, it is always it's pulled up from the xylem. So, here what happens primarily is there is water evaporation from the intercellular spaces of the leaves. If you take the leaves, in the leaves, first of all, there is liberation of water, evaporation of water from the intercellular spaces, which is present in the spongy parenchyma. There is intercellular spaces as well as through the stomata. This leads to lowered water potential. When we have lower water potential, there is movement of water from the xylem into the leaves. So, the water moves from the xylem into the leaves. Leaves have got lower water potential because there is loss of water through the intercellular spaces, and thereby there is a sort of a drag, and the drag is termed as a transpirational pull. So, among the choices, option number D is right, that is answer is D, which primarily relates to the explanation of what is the meaning of the term transpirational pull. Question number 12. The term passive absorption relates to A. Tension in the xylem sap, B. ATP, C. Lower water potential or high DPD, diffusion pressure deficit, and D. A and C. When you take the term passive absorption, normally water is drawn up in plants by the method of passive absorption. So, passive absorption relates to xylem and the sap tissue, which is made up of water and minerals, and here there is a sort of a tension which is created in the xylem sap because of the transpirational pull, and again due to this there is lowered water potential. The lowered water potential, or there is high diffusion pressure deficit, the capability of there is a deficit which gets formed and there is a pressure for more of diffusion. So, higher diffusion pressure deficit, lower water potential and the tension in the xylem sap are primarily attributable to the passive absorption. Hence, we have choices A and C are right, which is indicated in answer D, which says both of them are right. The right answer is D. Question number 13. Regions of growth, storage organs, roots, fruits can be termed as A. Loading, B. Source, C. Sinks, D. Transfer cells. Whenever we take any plant, in any plant which can photosynthesize, we understand there are certain regions which are termed as sources. The most important sources are the leaves. The leaves can photosynthesize. Later on, there is translocation of the solutes, translocation of the photosynthetase, that is a fully formed food material, are termed as the solutes. They get translocated downwards, and when they get translocated, they can go, the food can go to regions of growth. The regions of growth can be the shoot apex as well as the root apex, or any place in the plant where growth is needed, that is where there is a need for an increase in cell size and also cell number. Primarily it includes the shoot apex. So, food is needed especially at the place where there is maximum growth. Then it also goes to the storage organs. That is, you take the roots. Like if we take the potato or the beetroot, they are the storage organs, primarily where starch is stored. Or else it can also relate to places where it is needed, like the roots, for more of absorption. If we take the roots of tall trees, or else it could also mean moving of the food materials to places where there is ripening and formation of the fruits. So, all places wherein there is growth, storage organs, roots and fruits, or all places where there is a need for the sort of a metabolic energy as well as the food materials to be involved. These places are primarily termed as sinks. So, sinks are places where they are utilized. A source is a place where they are synthesized. So, always there is a flow from the source to the sink. Hence, among the choices, the answer is C, which says that there is a presence of sinks in the case of plants. Question number 14. While dealing with transpiration coefficient tension theory, the basic fact is that it is A, upperplast and symplast, B, active absorption, C, both active and passive absorption, D, passive absorption. Whenever we are dealing with transpiration, which is linked to the uptake of water, where the water column does not break down. So, there is cohesion and tension. Cohesion of the water molecules and tension because of the transpirational pull. So, all these three are related to the mechanism of passive absorption of water. That is just the drawing of the column of water. Water rises upwards, the column is without involving of metabolic energy. So, passive absorption of water is the primary source by means of which water is drawn up even in tall trees. Hence, the answer is D. Question number 15. The rate of color change on the cobalt chloride paper means A, it is dry, that is blue, B, the evidence for rate of transpiration and it turns pink, C, photosynthesis occurs, D, respiration occurs. A cobalt chloride paper, when you take a leaf and you apply a sort of a cobalt chloride paper on this, the cobalt chloride paper turns from blue to pink. Primarily because of accumulation of water vapor. And the water vapor occurs due to transpiration. So, a cobalt chloride paper is an indication of evidence of rate of transpiration. So, depending upon the rate of transpiration, the color changes can be mild or it can be dense. So, among the choices, the answer is B. Question number 16. The water lost in transpiration is A, pure water, B, rich in solutes, C, rich in dissolved minerals, D, rich in dissolved salts. Always transpiration means loss of excess water from the leaf tissues, and whenever there is transpiration, it deals with excess loss of water alone. So, the water which is lost is the pure water. It does not involve the minerals or any other solutes or any other dissolved salts. Hence, the answer is A. Question number 17. Transpiration according to Curtis is termed as a necessary evil because A. Huge loss of water occurs as stomata remain open. B. It causes death by desiccation. C. It limits photosynthesis, but gaseous exchange is necessary. D. All the above. Now, the most important physiological process which occurs in plants are photosynthesis, respiration and transpiration. According to Curtis, transpiration is called a necessary evil. The reason it is necessary is there should be gaseous exchange. This can facilitate the uptake of carbon dioxide as well as the evolution of oxygen and maintain the sort of a temperature of the plant or cooling of the plant is very much essential because the plants are involved in the basic physiological process of photosynthesis and respiration. However, the reason why it is called an evil is it can limit photosynthesis. Due to non-availability of excess water. And sometimes supposing transpiration is excess, if there is excess transpiration, it can lead to desiccation. Entire water loss can lead to desiccation. And predominantly when you take, if on a very hot summer sunny day, the entire water is lost. Water is lost because the stomata tend to remain open. Imagine the amount of transpiration which occurs in the tropical rainforests where there is an huge excess loss of water. So, transpiration as a process is essential. This is the positive side of it. It is essential for gaseous exchange, also for cooling of the particular plant. But the negative thing is there could be excess loss of water and it can lead to desiccation. Thereby, it is given as a sort of a concept which says it is a necessary evil. Hence, the choice D which says all the above statements are right. The answer is D. Question number 18. Phloem conducts the food through A. Bast fibers, B. Xylem fibers, perforated sieve plates, C. Perforated sieve plates, D. Xylem parenchyma. Whenever we take organic food in the form of sucrose, food is always translocated downwards via the sieve tubes, and when you take each particular sieve tube, the sieve tube is perforated, like it is made up of a mesh like structure. So, these sieve tubes, this is termed as a perforated sieve plate. So, via perforated sieve plates, phloem primarily conducts the sort of food materials. Hence, the right answer is among the choices is C. Question number 19. Sucrose solutes transport through A. Mesophyll cells, phloem parenchyma, companion cells, sieve tube elements, B. Phloem parenchyma into companion cells, C. Companion cells to sieve tube elements, D. Sieve tube elements to companion cells. Whenever we are dealing with relation to sucrose, or we deal with solute, and we are looking at the transport system. How does sucrose or other solutes move? They normally move from mesophyll cells into the phloem, and especially in the phloem it goes into the living cells which are termed as phloem parenchyma. From the phloem parenchyma they get stored in the companion cells. After going through the companion cells, they can enter into the sieve tube elements. So, all photosynthetes go through phloem parenchyma. They may get transitorily, they may get stored in the companion cells, and later on from there they get into the sort of sieve tube elements, and then they are loaded downwards. So, this is the pathway of the sucrose solute transport. So, here the right answer is A. Question number 20. Removal of ring outside the vascular cambium of a tree causes death due to A. Non-transport of water upwards, B. The tree does not get nutrients, C. Annual rings are not formed, D. The food materials are not available and roots are starved. When we remove the ring or the outer bark of the outside of the vascular cambium, when we have the vascular cambium, this is the vascular cambium. And we are removing the ring, the outside ring. The outside ring is cast away or it is removed. So, from a particular tree, if we remove the bark, so when the bark is removed, it causes death of the tree. So, death of the tree occurs due to removal of the bark. The bark is the outermost layer which is derived on the outside of the vascular cambium. So, here when the bark is removed, the food materials are not available and thereby food materials cannot be translocated downwards, and hence roots are usually starved. Hence, the right answer is D. Question number 21. Osmosis can be physiologically demonstrated by A. Cobalt chloride method, B. Potometer, C. Thistle funnel with egg membrane, D. Thistle funnel with parchment membrane. Osmosis primarily relates to the transfer of the solute from a solution from a region of higher concentration to a lower concentration via a semi-permeable membrane. The cobalt chloride method is primarily aid for transpiration. Photometer also aids for transpiration. Now, among the parchment membrane and the egg membrane is semi-permeable. It allows only certain solutes to move through it. Hence, a typical thistle funnel experiment of the osmosis which shows a sort of a egg membrane primarily is exactly would indicate whether there is endoosmosis moving in or exoosmosis coming out. So, whenever we have an egg membrane which acts as a selectively permeable membrane, and we are looking in the process of osmosis in terms of uptake of water or rise in the water column or else drop in the sort of a water column if the water column reduces. This is primarily attributable to both endoosmosis as well as exoosmosis, which are the characteristic features of uptake of a solute from the solvent from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Hence, among the choices, the right answer is C. Question number 22. The pull in transpiration is stated by evidence in one of the following. A. Fresh leafy tissue need to be cut under water and fixed at one end. B. There is a need to dip into a beaker of mercury. C. Tube is held vertically in a dry place. D. Water passes into chute which is lost via transpiration and mercury rises. So, when you say transpiration pull, to demonstrate transpiration pull, we find that we have a column of mercury to which we have a water column, and when we have the water column, we also have a sort of a plant which is attached. Now, water passes into the chute and it goes through the column, and third, it is lost by transpiration. Thereby, the mercury column rises. Hence, we have the right choice is answer is D. So, D choice is water passes into the chute which is lost by transpiration and mercury rises. Question number 23. The movement of molecules of gases, liquids and solutes from regions of higher concentration to a lower concentration can be termed as A. Diffusion, B. Evaporation, C. Osmosis, D. Transpiration. Whenever we take either a liquid or a gaseous substance, otherwise a solute like an alum, we place it in a beaker of water and there is a movement of the molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration, which primarily indicates dispersal. So, when we are dealing with relation to molecular scatter, this entire process is predominantly termed as diffusion, a simple process of diffusion. Hence, the answer is A. Question number 24. Name one most influential factor which affects the rate of transpiration. A. Temperature, B. Relative humidity of the atmosphere, C. Light, D. Water. If transpiration has got to occur, and what is the most important factor which can affect the rate of transpiration? The rate of transpiration, like if you take a beaker and you only allow water to evaporate, this process is termed as evaporation. Whereas, in the process of transpiration, you have a beaker of water which is covered by a paper with pores. So, water evaporates through the pores. So, this is analogous to transpiration, wherein excess water or excess moisture is lost through specialized openings on the leaf which are termed as stomata. Now, if the relative humidity in the atmosphere is increased, it can primarily limit transpiration. So, the one very important factor which can, you take relative humidity and we are dealing with rate of transpiration, not the not the process of transpiration per se. Which is the factor which influences the rate of transpiration? So, among the choices of temperature, light and water and relative humidity plays a very important role affecting the rate of transpiration of different plants. Hence, the answer is B. Question number 25. In a potometer, we measure transpiration of dash through dash. The choices are A. Shoots, measurement of rate of water absorption. B. Roots, through damage caused. C. Cells, through hydrometric method. D. Leaves, through degree of stomatal opening. A potometer is basically a simple lab equipment which measures the transpiration of A. Shoots, through measurement of rate of water absorbed. So, primarily in a potometer, a shoot is immersed in a liquid column and the rate of water absorbed to the rate of water which is lost or transpired is calculated, and the instrument which uses this is primarily termed as a potometer. So, potometer is always associated with transpiration, shoots and water absorption. Hence, the right answer is A.